Hey, and welcome to Insurance Town. I'm the mayor, Heath Sheeran, and the host of this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pumped that you're here today because we got my good friend, Jon Spaugy, coming in to hang out with us today. And he's got his hands in a lot of different things with association that he owns, and he's got some agencies that he owns. His wife's involved in some agency ownership, and he's worked for carriers and companies and agencies, and he's been all over the place. And this conversation is a lot of fun, and we break down a lot of different things here. So I can't wait for you to check it out. Before I do, I got to talk to you about my good friends over at Smart Choice. You know, they are the fastest growing agency network for a reason. They help you get contracts. They help you to be a better insurance agent. They help you to maximize those contracts by giving you lower premium and volume commitments, and they give you higher commissions. That's right, higher commissions. They help you with commercial. They help you with personal lines. They got E&S, they got direct standard markets, they got it all. SmartChoiceAgents.com. Also, my good friends over at CoverDesk, they do a great job with virtual assistants. You know, whether you're looking for 1 or 30, you know, they could do a team approach with CoverDesk Direct, where you could have a team of virtual assistants to help you, whether it's a book roll or whether it's a team project or whether it's anything in there in between. Those virtual assistants over at CoverDesk can help you, and Andy and his team do a phenomenal job there. Thank you so much for being a sponsor of the show, and guys, thank you so much for reaching out to CoverDesk. I love having that partnership. Guys, go to coverdesk.com and check it out. Guys, let's get into the show today. Jon Spaugy comes at us from California. We talk about a hard market. We talk about associations and networking, and he gives some great advice for the good 357 agents out there. You'll know what I'm talking about after you listen. So let's let me get out of the way and let's jump in here. Sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Jon Spaugy. Jon Spaugy, what's going on, my man?
Bam. We made it happen.
We finally made it happen. This has been a long time coming, folks. Me and this guy have been connected for several years now. We finally got a chance to get on a podcast together, and I'm super jacked about it, man. So where are you at right now?
So in a world of hurt.
In a world of hurt. Uh-oh.
This
sounds like something we may have to unpack,
rough, man.
Yeah, it is. So are you telling me this might be a little bit of a therapy session? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah. I think all of us need it right now.
I hear you. Well, you know, before we get too much into the therapy session and laying on the couch, why don't we take a walk down memory lane, and why don't you tell the audience who you are, where you come from, go back as far as you want, and lead me up to now.
Sure. I got this elevator pitch down. So I've been doing this 30, almost 33 years now. Started in an insurance agency, independent. Broke my thumb, had to go to county hospital because everybody there was either family of the owner or retired military. So I said, I got to get some benefits. I can't do this. I don't know if you guys have been to a county hospital, but it's rough. It's definitely rough. So my mom and dad worked there too. So I worked with my mom and dad at that same agency. I went to work for FIC at the time, went through underwriting, corporate underwriting, commercial underwriting, customer service, and then finally made it into marketing, which I think was my true calling. You know, I'm real good at connecting agents with companies and being that in-between person. I understand both sides really well. So I worked for FIC that turned into Unitrend, that's now Kemper. I worked for AIG for about 5 years. I worked for the Hartford. I worked for the General, and I worked for GMAC. And then about 10 years ago, I started my own agency. 13 years ago, I started the association. The association bottom line is to connect people and get them where they need to go. So, and then just been plugging along since then. But this market is rough.
Yeah, it is. No, I hear you. And our stories sound very similar. I've spent a lot of time in the company background, spent some time in agency ownership, and I've done a lot of association work and spent a lot of time in networking throughout my career. So I love to hear that, and it gets me excited to know that we have such a connection in that area. But, you know, going back to Well, I guess we'll start we'll go backwards then from where you just started. So you said, it's a tough market that we're in. I know you're out in California. So all of us that aren't in California, we don't know what you're going through. We've heard the horror stories. We know, about the wildfires, and we know about different things going on with carriers. But when you talk about a hard market, you're talking about a hard market, not just in California, but all over the country right now.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Again, what happened in California was pretty much man-made at this point. We had a commissioner that wouldn't let the rate filings go through, wouldn't even let new carriers come in here. And because those rate filings didn't go through for so long, the carriers weren't able to catch up. So, it's not just inflation and the fires in that, those would come up naturally, and you'd hope that companies would be priced right for that. But when the shortages came in and the labor costs went up so high, thing of plywood would be like $14. It ended up being like $40 by the time it was done. It's starting to come down now. But same thing, they were just totaling out cars rather than fixing cars. So the insurance companies have not been able to get the rates that they need. And I think that happened across the country somewhat, but states that can file in rate, have it a little bit easier. The ones that, quite honestly, are probably an elected position instead of an appointed position. They're looking for votes too, and let's face it, rate hikes aren't great. So that's California in a nutshell. But even the other states, the companies are having problems catching up to supply issues and stuff like that. So
Yeah, and that's the thing that, in my opinion, I think that we're going to be in. And I've said this before in the podcast, and I'll stand on this because I believe this. I really feel like we're coming into probably what's going to be the longest hard market cycle we've ever had. I don't think it's going to be one of those, because in the past, when you and I have seen a hard market as agency owners, we thought, we'll make it through the next year and then we'll be fine. I think this one's going to settle in for a while because of what you just talked about, and because, let's go with lumber cost. If you can charge, I don't know, $5 for a 2x4, whatever it might be, why go back to $2.50 or $1 when you've been able to get that? If you're a HVAC contractor, why go backwards on your pricing when you've been able to get that for the last couple of years? Same thing with any of the contractors out there, with automobiles, with all the things like that. I just feel like pricing, there's no reason for them to go backwards unless some disruptor comes in and try to change things a little bit. But I just feel like we're going to be settled in here for quite some time.
And that's the issue that's happened too. And I'm sure it's happened in other states. Normally, when a market goes like this, you always have some carrier that comes in and really thinks that, hey, that we were already overpriced, or we had our prices right, everybody else had their prices wrong, and now is our time to start getting business. Well, out here in California, nobody wants to play in the sandbox right now. So we don't have those companies that kind of fill in, and in all honesty, you just need one or two. You're probably going to blow them out of their reinsurance pretty quick. But normally there's a carrier or somebody that wants to fill in that gap. And right now there's nobody. They're looking at it, and I think later on in the year we'll start to get that. And I think that's what's going to kind of dig us out of this, is when somebody does come in and say, hey, we do have the right rate and we can start bringing on some business. So.
Yeah. And, regardless, nobody can see that crystal ball to see what's going to happen over the next couple of years. So that's the tough part. And I gather that, and I understand that, and probably a reason why I'm not an agency owner anymore. However, to those, you being an agency owner, and, you have several locations, right? You said
Yes.
You have 2 or 3 agencies.
Yep.
What would you say, your approach is, and maybe somebody can glean from your approach on how to handle this hard market? What are you trying to do, to keep your back door closed and to gain new business?
Yeah. So right now, especially, retention is absolutely key. And also empowering your staff. So I heard this from Billy Williams, actually, and it's so key. Our agency we need to have empathy, but we don't need to apologize for what's happening with the rates. Our rates are going up exactly the same as theirs. And the other thing is educating them. Right now in California, most companies, you're gonna have like 10-day bind authority. So if these guys are, just pissed off about the rate and just think they're gonna move on, you just got to educate them. And that's the other thing. Don't waste your time like trying to shop it with the companies that you have. Really educate them, because you're gonna waste your time. And a little bit of that is false hope. And then what's even worse right now is most of the companies aren't even on the comparative rater. So, it's not a quick, all right, boom, let me see. Okay, here's 40 companies. For us to get the rates now, we have to go to each carrier and go through their system. So,
yeah. And I also think and I've talked about this before too, is there's a lot of dangers in that remarketing as well. And people say, what do you mean by that? And I'm thinking, when you do try to remarket that, and maybe their house hadn't been looked at in a while, and they've got an older roof now, they haven't updated anything. So when the house inspector comes out, the inspector comes out and says, hey, you need to fix this step, this thing, that thing, the other thing. Excuse me. Bad podcast etiquette there. But then, you start thinking about all those inspections you got to spend money on. And if you don't get it done in a timely manner, then it's going to cost your rate to go up even more. Let's say when they ran your record 4 years ago or whatever, 3 years ago, you didn't have any tickets. Now you got a little bit of lead foot over the last couple of years. You've gotten a couple accidents or tickets. There's so many things that could go wrong in a reshop. So again, positioning yourself to educate, as you mentioned, I think is smart. I think also to position yourself in a way to explain that to them, to say, hey, these are the dangers of us taking you out to market. And then, like I said, I think a big key there is to let them know, hey, your rates aren't the only ones going up. And I tell a lot of people, and I've done this in the past as well, hey, my rates went up. They all the time think Jon Spaugy's the one that's controlling the rates. He's the agency owner, but to let them know, hey, my own rates went up. I can't control these rates.
yeah, and it does make a big difference once you get your staff that permission to do that, because that's the other thing. As salespeople, like we're people pleasers, right? We're problem solvers, and we want to have answers for them. And right now, the answers is education, rather than just trying to give them a better rate in that, because even if you switch them, or even if they leave in California, it's just as soon as their rate filing goes through, they may be in a worse position anyway. So
yeah, so
just sit there.
well, and the other thing that you have an advantage, and I maybe have a little bit of advantage on, is we've had that carrier background. So we know how to speak that carrier lingo and know what to say, not only to the customer, but to the carrier. And so what are some of those conversations you've had over the last 6-8 months, or maybe even a year, with some of those carriers, and what kind of things can you glean from that, or what kind of things can you talk to us about from that perspective?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important things is like for me, like my true value add to any company that I'm with is that company experience and knowing that lingo and stuff. So that was one of the things when I first started my agency. A lot of people's like, dang, Spaugy, like, you're getting appointments that most people can't get, and you're getting them off the bat. And I'm like, yeah, but I also know how to talk the language. I said, I also have like a almost 40-page business plan. Do you need a business plan? No. Does it give you that extra oomph to get in there? Yes. And then I think those conversations again with these rates and stuff like that, I understand like what the companies are doing. I understand how they do it. I understand it's not personal. And it's really easy to have those conversations. I'll give you a real good example. We had one non-standard company that called. So my thing is during all this is like for the companies, like, please don't touch our commission during this time. Like, we're getting beat up bad enough. If you got to make that commission decision, like, wait till this is like died down. But I had a non-standard carrier call me the other day and said, hey, the owner doesn't want to do it, but we have to. They were already at their reinsurance limit. They're basically going to lose the program, which means we don't have a market. So his explanation on that is like, he's going to go back to the reinsurer, tell him, hey, I got 2 extra points that I have coming in. And I said, you know what? Okay, I can understand that. Do I like it? No, but I can understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to free up so that you'll be able to continue, for us to continue to have a program. And then kind of like your lumber thing, his thing is like, when things get better, we maybe give those 2 points back. And I'm like not likely, but I mean, I appreciated the call
Yeah,
to explain
100%.
like this is why we had to do it. And it made sense. So, at that point we can swallow it and move along. Luckily, when we do non-standard in California, we are allowed to charge a fee. So to make up for 2%, we can do that if we feel like it. So
100%. And I'm with you on that. And it's better than pulling out of the state altogether or losing your program. So I would agree with that. And so I do like what you mentioned about having a business plan. And yes, it's impressive to the carriers that you're working with. But I think also it's a good time in your agency when you're going through a hard market, because there's a lot of agency owners out there right now that may not have ever been through this kind of hard market. And so I think it'd just be beneficial to not only you, but to your staff and your carriers and to your customers to maybe, sit down with your leadership team or with your staff or whoever and come up with that plan.
Yep. So the good thing with a business plan, if you're doing it right, just like any type of plan that you do, it's a living document. So that means you don't just write this thing 10 years ago and just keep throwing it out to people. I do have a funny story about my business plan.
Hit me.
I mean, mine's deep. Mine's like super deep. Like mine's one that can definitely get you appointments. But most of the marketing reps, some of them don't really need it, and that I send it to them regardless. Most of them read like the first page, second page, and then that's it. It was enough. I hit them with enough from the beginning for them to understand the agency and where it's at and how we get business. But I did have one that read through the whole thing, and this is fantastic. So he says, Spaugy, this is great business plan. He's like, but how are you going to get business to me? So I had to add one more page that I add for everybody. And I kind of giving away the secret sauce here. So the one thing that I do is when I tell them like, hey, we want to work with a company like yours, I go into their company, I go into their mission statement, and I basically put their mission statement in like why I want your company.
That's fantastic.
So at this point, they're like, oh, that sounds familiar. And he's in line with what we're in line with. And then I go into, this is how many apps we're going to get you. This is how we're going to market for it and how we go after it. And the reason that's important is, especially when you're going after preferred, like I worked standard, non-standard for a long time. And they would be like, we're going to write preferred because we're going to go after preferred business and we're going to do preferred things and we're going to do this. And then they'd be like, we're going to send you like 30 apps a month. The preferred companies don't want 30 apps a month. They want 3 to 5 good apps a month.
They would have quality over quantity for sure.
So it was another thing, like with my experience, like being on the company side, like knowing how to kind of put that together and write that out for people too.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. And so how do you share that business plan, or do you, with your staff, with your internally?
I definitely share it with my staff. I've actually shared it with other owners too. The hardest part I think about writing a business plan or a mission statement, like mission statements are really tough too, if you're doing it right to align with your company. It's not just something that you just throw out there. But I do go over it. I have gone over it with them. I have walked through it with them. And it's the same thing. It gives them an understanding of like who we are and what we want to accomplish too, and how we want to go after business. I used to always say I was a doer, not a planner. And like when I was a rep with AIG, like I was the ultimate doer. Like I always told people, I talk so much mess, like you better be good. It's like a reverse psychology thing. Like if I'm saying I'm this good, I better be great.
Yep, you and I are cut from the same cloth, my brother. I'm the same way. Anybody that was my agent when I was a rep, I was the same way. And I love that approach, because I think you got to put yourself in that your own accountability piece to be able to say, if I'm going to talk this much, I got to back this up. So I agree. I think that goes for agency owners, for carrier reps, underwriters, all of those. If you're going to do that, you got to say do what you say you're going to do. And I think that's strong. And I think that's a good accountability to put on yourself. And so, what part has I know you just came back from is it called the big insurance? association?
Yeah, so we had to change it. We had been, so I changed it 3 times. First, it was Brokers Insurance Group that aligned well with California. Well, the partner that I had, he was getting divorced, and they tried to bring the association into the divorce. So I'm like, this association really does not run like if I'm out. So I'm like, whatever, you guys can go ahead, keep that company. And I changed it to Big Independent Group. And at the time, I told people I changed it to Big Independent Group so that we could actually go out on a national level someday in that. But the truth is, it was a divorce, and we had only started. It had been like 3 years, so we were the hot thing at that time. Like, we were hot. Like, we were new. We were getting huge turnouts. So then I changed it to Big Independent Group. Didn't have a problem for 10 years. As soon as I decided to go national from just California, I get a letter from the Big I. And I'm like, I ain't fighting you.
So
I'm
what is it
we'll
now?
change it. Yeah. The younger me would have probably been like, let's go. Like, they can't do this. I've been doing this like 10 years. Like, now you're gonna say something. But the wiser, smarter me was like, no worries.
So
We'll get it changed.
what is it now? And you just had
So
your
we changed it
conference.
to Agent Brokers United.
Okay. Yeah.
So again, it's at the end of the day, when you do these shows and that, it really does come down to like a few people that's going to be the heart and soul behind it. Even the small local ones that happen, it comes down to a couple people. You may have a board and everything else, but there's always a driving, like, somebody just got the passion to put these on and to put them together. You always have that. And again, at the end of the day, it's a name.
No, you're right. So you just came back from that recently in Vegas. And so what was this topic discussed at all? Did you hear some things going around the hard market? What was kind of the focus of this year's Agents Brokers United?
So we knew everything that was kind of coming down the pipe. Again, it's been hitting us, just in waves after waves after waves. It's getting access to markets and stuff like that right now. Like, I've gone to conventions like 32 years, at least one, maybe multiple. I've really gotten into the national shows now, going as an attendee as well. Like, I get so much value out of them. And sometimes the thing that's frustrating for me is to not be like, why ain't there like 2,000 people here? Why is there like 600 people here? Like, there should be like 1,500 easy. And I don't care if you're brand new in the business. I don't care if you've been around forever. Like, our industry changes so fast. And if you're not staying on top of it, and then there's really something to be said for seeing people face to face, eye to eye, talking to them. Right now, I have people calling me crying because they don't have markets, they don't have stuff. As I seen somebody put up on Facebook the other day, is like, oh, this market's so tough. Why isn't anybody talking about it? And my thing is like, what conventions have you been to? What associations have you joined?
Right.
What magazines have you read? Like, what podcasts have you listened to? The cool thing with what the industry we're in now is there's so much stuff out there, and there's so much support that there used to not be. But like, I'm like, even if I didn't run a convention, like, I'd still go to 2 or 3 a year. Like, I just see so much value in them.
Listen, I couldn't agree more. And anybody that knows me knows that about me. And my wife is the EVP of the PIA of Arkansas, and so I'm super involved there. And then I've spoken at many different events, and including 3 or 4 more this year. And I love going to events. I love face-to-face. I love relationships. But even deeper than that, just, being, like you said, a part of something, whether it's agents, marketing reps, wherever you fit in the world of insurance, being a part of that and being able to share ideas and thoughts and whatnot with other people, I just think is huge. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time again. It is time for the mid-roll ad. And guys, I can't wait to discuss a few things with you guys before we get back into this episode with Jon Spaugy. Canopy Connect is your one-click solution to getting all those deck pages you need to quote your prospect. They are a phenomenal partner here, and they've been with me since the jump, and they've continued to grow and evolve and change. And they are now not only getting deck pages for personal lines insurance, but they're also getting stuff for commercial insurance. They're getting loss runs. They're going to help you get those driver's lists. They're going to help you get property locations. They're going to help you get so much stuff that is difficult to do, or maybe you just couldn't read the picture they took you and the VIN number, and you're embarrassed to call back to get that because the picture was smudged. I don't know. Whatever it might be, Canopy Connect. Go to usecanopy.com. One-click solution to getting those deck pages you need. Also, my good friends over at Manscaped. You know, guys, it is Father's Day week, actually. And so by the time this releases, if you haven't got anything for your father, go to manscaped.com, put in the code MAYOR, and you'll get 20% off plus free shipping. I don't know what you're waiting on. I don't need to finish this ad. That's enough right there. But they have the beard hedger. They've got the weed whacker, which is for nose and ear and eyebrows. They've also got the lawnmower 4.0 to help you with all the other body grooming that you do, and including the below the waist grooming. These are precision blades. They are waterproof. They have light to help you with the hard to reach places. They're such great blades. Just one swipe and the hair's gone on your face, your chest, everywhere else. Guys, don't miss out on this opportunity. 20% off. And they are now a permanent fixture here, so they're going to be here forever. But make sure Father's Day, you don't miss out on this opportunity. Check it out, manscaped.com. Scroll to the bottom, hit the code MAYOR, get that 20% off. Let's get back to the show.
Yep. That was like I said, that was my I was proud of the show this year. But in a way, I'm like, we could have helped so many more people.
So what were you proud of so much? What were you so proud of this year's show?
You know what? Is the first one that we went national. It was one of the first ones. Like, we made a mistake. Like, we were making the shows free for agents and that. And the problem is, when you do that, like, it kind of diminishes the value somewhat, and it shouldn't, because it's not like I really want to charge the agents to attend. But we really didn't have that this year, and we actually had a buildup. It was like we had it free for like November, December, and the show wasn't until May. But then we started like $100, $200, $300, got all the way up to $500. And it's really because there's so much pressure on an event coordinator to try to do stuff when you have no idea how many people showing up.
Right.
But this year, one, we did get people from all over the country, which was cool. It was still mainly a California show. You know, we've been doing it here for so long. It's the first time we moved out. Our speakers were absolutely phenomenal. That's the other thing. Like, people missed out on the speakers. And I have a hard part with that. I'm a marketing rep at heart. I got to be honest, like, my attention span is usually not real long. So even when I go to shows across the country, I know I'm missing out, because I can get in there and I can be there about 20 minutes. And I'm like, oh man, I can't sit this long. And so, like, with me, I usually go out and I start talking to all the marketing reps, that are waiting. That's on me. I got to get better at that. Because, like I said, even when I do my show, I know the value of what these speakers have to say. And like you said, you can catch one idea from the show that can change your whole agency. And the other thing that happened this year that the only other thing that I was disappointed in is we didn't have the carriers out. And I'm doing another one in Northern California, and then we have a big one that happens in Southern California with another association. I'm really trying to encourage the carriers. I understand, like, it sucks. Like, the decisions you have to make are really tough, and what you have to tell us is really hard. But man, you support us during the bad times. Like, come out and just be there and talk to us. Like, it doesn't have to be like, hey, I'm appointing and stuff like that. We need their support. We're all in this together. We need you to come out to the events.
Yeah.
And my pet peeve is when any company talks about budget. Like, I'm an agency owner. Like, when I was a marketing rep and worked for the carriers, they could tell me the budget thing all day long. And I was like, oh, we just don't have it in the budget. Now I'm like, Man, I spend a lot to get clients in. And I always tell agents and companies, you never know where your next $1 million or $10 million like deals coming from.
Yep.
And you can have one person at that show out of 800 that could be the total game changer or a big thing for you. And especially, and now agency owners, like, come on, there's so much technology out there. There's things moving so fast. There's things that, we didn't have enough VA companies out there. I'm like, man, VAs is like the hot thing. Like, we should have they should have been like premium finance companies. We should have like 5 out there.
Right. There's a bunch of them. And so you being in the position you're in, running an association, being in the business as long as you have, doing what you do, and you probably get lots of phone calls from agencies, carrier reps, whatnot, asking for advice and going through whatnot. So let's have a couple different conversations here. So let's go through a new agent just started from scratch, calls you up. Hey, John, I need some advice on what I can do right now. I'm coming in, I'm a new agent, I'm green, and I'm in a hard market, and I've got this, I got to hire, I got to grow. What's the first thing that you could tell me? What's some advice you would give me, John?
You coming in at the perfect time.
Talk to me, John. Tell me. Everybody else is telling me it's a bad time. So tell me why.
Nope. You coming in at the perfect time because you're coming in at the roughest time that anybody has seen in a long time. So you haven't felt the good times yet. So
good
know
point.
what? Every appointment that you get, every client that you get is a plus, and things are only going to get better from here. Like, again, a lot of people's like got the opposite mindset. I'm like, nope, you coming, you know what? You make it through this, and you will make it through because you're going to have that drive and determination, and you're going to have an open mind to probably do some other things that's going to help you survive.
And so, following up from that question, same situation. To get carriers, should I start with, going to a network, or should I go, E&S route? Because I know I can get appointments there. Or should I just get what I can get and just follow their appetite? What do you think I should do from there? I'm green. I don't know what I'm doing, John.
Yeah. So it's funny because we're part of SIA with one of our agencies too. So, that model works great. Me personally, I still come from the part, go out, get whatever you can get, work for those appointments. You're going to appreciate them like even more so than, just joining a group. And that there are great groups out there though. So if you need that kickstart, go ahead and get with that. But my personal advice is for you to go try to get as many appointments that you can, and then you can still join those groups if you need to.
Yeah, whether it's a SIAA or a Smart Choice or a Canyonlands, whatever you want to get into, I agree with you. But so I just wanted to hear what your advice would be on that. And then should I got a little bit of money here. Should I start off with a producer or start off with an account manager, or get me a VA or two and try to run it by myself? What are your thoughts on that?
Yep. My thoughts on that: when you first start out, like do as much as you can, make sure you know every part of the agency, then bring on a producer. I'm a firm believer, and it's not always easy, but I'm a firm believer. Get a producer, get them on commission only. And they're gonna eat what they go after. And I know that's not always easy, but if you can find that guy, like, he's going to fight for the business. Then once I preach 3-5-7 to everybody.
What's that?
I preach it to agency owners. I preach it to producers. So 3-5-7. Realistically, you get in this business, it's going to take you 3 years to be doing decent. So, if you had to work another job, whatever you got to do to make sure you're paying bills, you may have to do double shifts. Like that's it. I worked 2 jobs almost my entire life. But so 3 years, 5 years, you're going to be pretty comfortable. By 7 years, like, you should be jamming. You should, your income where you want to be. And then especially if you're an owner, by 7 years, like, your job should be what my job is at this point. My job is to get the best of the best contracts, get the best programs out there, get the best processes for my people. If I'm writing a policy, I gotta be honest, at this point, I write, my wife has an agency too, and I'll go work that on Saturday. It's non-standard. I'll write policies over there. But if I'm writing policies for a company that I own, there's an issue. Like, that's not my job. My job is to set these guys up for success, give them the best possible tools, and then stay on the forefront of what's going on. That's my thing in a nutshell. Like, you may
Yeah.
want to
So
sell in that's fine, but you're going to stymie your agency.
yeah, I hear you completely. So let's talk to that person who's been in it 7 to 10 years and they've gotten to that place where they're good. But here we are in a market we've never seen before in my 7 years. Now we've hit a couple hard markets in the last 7 years, but not like this. I've got producers that are scared. I've got account managers that are upset because they're getting cussed out every day and people are calling them and abusing them. And, carriers are pulling out and things are happening and rates are going up. What I need some therapy advice, John. If I'm that guy, what do you tell me?
So here's the thing: you can't set it and forget it. This industry will not let you do that. And if you think that it's going to do it, you're going to be that guy that, hey, you build a good book. You're okay with renewals. You're never growing. You're not really shrinking. You're kind of maintaining it. But this industry is not a set it and forget it. So when I say like, hey, I shouldn't be selling policies and that, I need to know what's going on. I need to stay in front of people. Again, trade shows, social media groups, podcasts, like, let's be honest, like most of the producers aren't doing that. They don't care about your business like you care about your business. So just because you got, I don't care, 30 years in this business, if you're not staying on top of what's going on, this business will pass you by. That's another thing that's great about this business. That guy that starts like 1 year, 2 years, has just as much opportunity and growth as you do. It makes it harder. It's sometimes the longer you're in an industry, it makes it harder. You know why? Because you remember what happened like 3 years ago. You remember when the companies were doing this. Like, you're not staying. It's such a great industry, and it's such a good way for like young people to get in it. We need more young people in it, but it's just learning. Like, half of it's just learning the systems. Let's face it, most of the underwriting gets done for us.
You're exactly right. And that's one of the things, whether you're, on that 7 to 10 year side or this side over here, I mean, it's something you can navigate. It's just going to take some intentionality.
Yep. That's the other great thing that happened. Didn't everybody think the great disruptor was going to be all the tech and all the other stuff that they have? And guess what happened? We back to underwriting. Underwriters actually, their job's actually valuable again. Because let's face it, like personal lines underwriting, we used to say when we went from personal lines underwriting to commercial underwriting, like, now you got to use your brain. Now you got to think.
Yeah.
So many policies were being just issued. Like, if you checked all the boxes, you made it look pretty, like the policy never even seen an underwriter. Now, I don't know about in other states, like now every policy being underwritten in like double, triple. Like, that's why there's the 10-day bind and all that. They're looking into stuff. But what happened? It wasn't technology that was the great disruptor. It was actually, legislative wise and inflation that came back. So we're back to the basis of like, how do we make an underwriting profit? And it's not just an auto issue policy.
Exactly. And so you've given me some good stuff here that I want to digest a little bit, but I don't know if I have enough time. But the 357 I think is solid. I love the 357, and I've heard some things around that. But so that agency in that 5-year area, that is, again, in this place we're at in our marketplace, whether on the East Coast or West Coast, we're all dealing with the same thing. Would you advise them in any other way that you would have the guy in the beginning or the guy later on in his career?
Yeah, at 5 years, you should be looking at, rounding out your book even more. So let's face it, those first 3 years, and there's a reason why carriers don't like appointing agencies when they haven't had 3 years in business. Man, you're doing what you have to survive. You're doing what you have to do to eat. Like, you're taking on anybody and everybody. At 5 years, honestly, you should start shaping your agency that, we're getting customers that we want. We're going and fishing in ponds that we want to fish in. We're just not taking everybody. Because when you take everybody, like, let's face it, they've been rejected by a lot of people. The same thing trying to be a generalist insurance agency where you say, I do auto, home, life, commercial, all this, and you really don't know commercial in that. At 5 years, that should be where you're starting to pivot and you are starting to pick up those other lines. And that now that, like, wow, what our agencies have survived because we had pivoted to doing more commercial in that a while back. Now I'm like completely getting into the Medicare and life side. So it's trying to round these guys out. You know, it's trying to sell them. Like, now we have the trust of the client. It's trying to, you know, even though this market is messed up, it's like, hey, you need an umbrella policy, you know, like you got things to lose. And those first 3 years, you probably ain't doing that as much. If you are, like, you're ahead of most people. But those first 3 years, you're just trying to get a policy in, you know.
Yep.
At 5 years, start making that pivot. At 7 years, you know, if you have your processes in that, like, you're gonna have all that rounded out. And if it doesn't happen at that time, it's fine. You still have time to make up for it. But your money wise, at 7 years, you know, it's up to you what you do with your agency at that point. Like, you made it 7 years in businesses. You made it 7 years. You probably, and if you did it right, you're probably in pretty good shape.
Yeah, you're right. So, you know, we've talked to the 3, the 5, and the 7 now, and I'm glad that we went down that route because, again, as you mentioned, we're in a tough place right now. We all need a little help, and so, you know, getting a little help from Uncle John doesn't help, and so it doesn't hurt. So that's great, and I appreciate that. And so, you know, anything else that you're seeing out there right now that you want to talk about a little bit? I mean, you kind of seen it all. You've been there, done that, wore a lot of hats in this business.
Probably the biggest thing. I mean, honestly, you're always going to get down. Like, reach out to the groups, get help, get support from other agents, and that's the really important thing. Get help from other agents. Quite honestly, I love reps, but reps make a salary. They work for a company, and the really good reps are there to tell you about other groups and that, but they don't know your pain. Like, unless they were a business owner, they do not know your pain. Reach out to other owners. I wish in California that would happen more. I like going to the national shows and stuff like that, and I like going to the shows with preferred agents because of that. Like, they have confidence in what they've done in that. So I hate to talk about just California, but in California we have a lot of agents that it was easy for them, and the reason it was easy is because they had broker fees and that, and they could start a business. The problem with them is they don't talk to each other. They don't try to help each other out. Talk to each other. Like, if you need to, like, go into the associations, go into the chat rooms. I mean, there's great Facebook groups out there, and then build a relationship with somebody and just find out, like, hey, we're going through the same thing. And again, you never know where your next $1 million freaking conversation's coming from. And that's what happens when you go to trade shows and you get involved in their groups. You get to have those personal conversations with people that's going through the same thing as you, or they may just have a great idea.
Yeah, and that's the thing that kills me when you talk to agents that are like, I don't want to go share ideas, or I don't want to, you know, have them steal my ideas. It's like, bro, like, first of all, they're probably not going to. And second of all, if they do, there's enough business to go around. That abundance mindset's got to be the key. And I think right now, if you're listening to this and you're thinking those thoughts, you've got to turn around and, you know, think about that from an abundance mindset instead of a scarcity mindset.
Yep. And get out to the trade shows that are out there, man. Like, they're put together for you.
I mean, they're paying a lot of money to be there too.
Yep. And that's in that 357. That's what happens too much times too. After 3 years, they think they're doing good. They think they have every appointment. They don't need any help. And that happens in the whole spectrum of stuff. At first, they're not like that. At first, they're like, give me the knowledge, give me the stuff. Then they sit back in their office. If you sit back in your office and don't get out to the stuff that's available to you, you're going to do okay. You're not going to do great.
Right.
Sorry.
No, I hear you. No, I hear you completely, and I agree with you. And so you got to get out of your office. You got to be intentional. You got to be proactive, whether you're in a hard market or a soft market for that matter. But yeah, I agree. You're in a good place in a hard market if you're green, and you got to pivot a little bit at 5 or 7, but you can still make it and get through it. And get involved. All those things you talked about today are so crucial. That's why I wanted to have you on. And how can people find you if they want to talk to Uncle Jon and pick his brain a little bit, talk to him, bend his ear? Where would you have them find you at?
And so still old school, probably there's 2 places that I'm.
If you say facts, I'm gonna hang up.
No, I was just going to mention Facebook or LinkedIn.
Okay.
It's just under Jon Spaugy. Like those 2 places is probably the best. Like to hit me up, then Google me.
If they wanted to get involved in your association, can they do that whether they're on the East Coast or West Coast?
Yeah. So again, the idea was to always try to move that national. We had California, like the change on that. Right now, the same places. If you go to BIGINSUSA.com, that's where all the information is about the shows and the events and that. Hopefully I'll get back to what we've done about 7 cruises. We've done picnics. We've done about like 5,000 tickets to baseball games at one time or one year. We've done a whole lot of stuff. The pandemic kind of slowed that down, but our number one thing, with most associations, it's education, it's networking, it's advocacy. Ours really is set up for the networking and education side. Man, haven't really gotten the advocacy side. It just takes so much money, and memberships would be so much higher. It's
right.
tough.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so, guys, get in touch with this guy. I've been waiting for years to finally talk to him, and so now that you've talked to him or heard him, I want you to get in touch with him a lot sooner than I did. So, man, thank you for joining me and hanging out with us today. Thank you for adding so much value, and I'll have to have you come back on again. Let's wrap again.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Man, I appreciate you, brother.
All right, take care.
You too. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with me and Jon Spaugy today in the program. Hope you had as good time as I did. Keep sending me those ideas. Keep talking to me. Keep helping me to get in the mailbag. I love getting on my laptop over there and reading all the emails and the direct messages and all the things you guys send me. It's so much fun. Go to Heath at insurancetownpodcast.com. And if you want to be on the show yourself, I'd love to hear from you. If you've got some ideas, I'd love to as well. I've got several shows lined up for the next couple of weeks, but I'd love to hear from you. And I will be needing some guests in August, September, maybe even late July. So I'd love to hear from you if you have any ideas for the show. If you also have an idea for your own show, go to getreadysetpodcast.com. Ready Set Podcast, turning your brilliant idea into reality. Thanks again, guys. I look forward to hanging out with you again next week.